Even Amazon reaches a point where they're like, why are you wasting all of my money?
Are you going back and saying, show me why this stuff has to cost so much?
I'm looking hard at the cost of every one of our businesses all the time.
And the truth is, this was inevitable. Amazon selling physical goods means they track everything. They have to be a numbers-based company.
This year we had a very uncertain economic environment, as well as hired very aggressively.
They're not a tech startup based off investor funds where they just waste money until they run out. So obviously, when the world changes and the money starts to dry up, they begin to look for savings.
Consumers right now trying to stretch their dollars. People care a lot about getting a bargain right now.
The thing is, I'm not sure if he knows where the problem actually is, because he talks about the efficiency of spending.
Always have to look at whether you're allocating the resource as efficiently as you possibly could.
Oh, we're making plenty of bets, but I'm very bullish on the future. I think this can be a great success.
In the case of Prime Video, I'm very bullish on where we're headed.
Andy Jassy, the CEO, is taking a hard look, asking for detailed accounts of their spending.
Because look at the successes we've already had.
Look at Jack Ryan and Reacher and Terminal List and Citadel.
No, the problem isn't that Amazon has had massive spending for their TV shows, but it's the fact that they've all failed.
The content continues to get better and better.
And the reasons why they all failed, or rather, the person responsible for it all. Because, well, Jennifer Salke has said that we're missing the point because you don't reverse engineer true creative vision. I'm not sure anyone wants her creative vision. In fact, Prime Video might be more profitable if she was blind and just throwing darts at a wall of pitches. But now, the Eye of Sauron has moved onto Amazon Prime Video, and he's asking executives for detailed budget analysis of some of their biggest shows. Which isn't a good thing when they're the ones losing the most money. I mean, he was so proud about talking about Rings of Power premiere numbers.
We continue to grow the number of people watching Prime Video content. Lord of the Rings at over 100 million viewers.
But he doesn't mention the rest of the series, which only had a 37% domestic completion rate.
The content continues to get better and better.
And ironically, that's not even the most obvious disaster, because there are some number games which people within the company, in an attempt to save their own jobs, might want to play. They like to pretend that Prime Video gets loads of people onto the Prime subscriptions, rather than the physical shipping, and use this to give them more beneficial metrics like cost per first stream. But as one insider said, if Rings of Power isn't the highest performing thing Amazon has ever done, it's a failure. But the world may never know. If the world found out, Amazon Prime Video would be done, and so we might as well just put on a brave face for everybody.
We continue to grow the number of people watching Prime Video content.
But they can only do that with their internal shows, and there are other things that Prime Video have done. Because the CEO spoke about his various long-term bets that they've placed, one of which would have been Salke's preemptive bid for Air. This is a movie about trainers. Basically, anyone could have told you it was going to be a flop. It will have been a cheap show with a low budget, and that's what you should have bought it for. But instead, Salke just bought it off the pitch for $160 million. Matt Damon made more money on Air than any movie but Bourne. She just took it off the table. And while people have said, oh, I'm sure someone else would have matched the deal, I can't see that unless they want to get fired as well. They bought it for $160 million, but it grossed $90 million worldwide at the box office. So if Amazon got half of that, they're still down $115 million before you even count marketing or any other extras that haven't been included in the purchase price. This isn't a case of efficiency of spending. This is a case of somebody has no idea what they're doing, spending far too much money on projects that anyone in their front room could have told you would be a disaster. And I say that as someone in their front room who told you it was going to be a disaster. And the reason for it, according to insiders, is Salke just gets obsessed with the celebrity of it all. She sees this high status people and wants to show them that I'm high status as well. They don't learn from their mistakes. We can't do many more deals like that. They say we don't buy from outside studios, and then one comes along and they just buy everything. The impolite term for it is star banging. On the one hand, the CEO is about saving money, making sure we spend things efficiently, and on the other, Salke's running around the mall with her husband's credit card. This is someone who seems to make the worst decisions at all opportunities. Phoebe Waller-Bridge took part in the destruction of Bond. She recently starred in the destruction of Indiana Jones. All the while Amazon paid her $23 million a year for 3 years, and the deal bore no fruit. And yet, despite this, Amazon renewed the deal and put her onto Tomb Raider. Most people would call that a disaster. You'd learn from your mistakes. This is a person who's done no work for you. But somehow the people at Amazon see that as an advantage, saying that Phoebe is a perfectionist, so she absolutely wants to make sure that she does it great and right, and she's proven that when she does deliver, eventually, she delivers. Tell that to Indiana Jones 5, where she delivered a bomb so big, even Ezra Miller will have been impressed at the the disaster. So what the CEO wants and what Prime Video are doing are complete opposites, with the retailer engaged in a cost-cutting program. Meanwhile, Amazon have released half a dozen pricey series that failed to deliver, things like The Peripheral. This is a show that cost $175 million for 8 episodes, had lukewarm audience engagement, and probably should have been cancelled. But it wasn't, as Amazon renewed The Peripheral, simply because the political capital they would lose with Lisa and Jonah would have been too great, as they have other shows coming. These are people who have been getting paid $20 million a year since 2019, and yet produced a massive monetary failure that probably should have got cancelled. But Amazon, the employer, doesn't want to lose the political capital, all so they can continue to pay them $20 million a year to fail. This isn't about, oh well, if we're just more efficient and spend a little bit less on the shows, we'll reach profitability. This is verging on deliberate incompetence with the intention of sinking a company. You don't see behaviour this bad unless someone sets up a fake company and just employs all of their family and pays them inflated wages for no work.
The content continues to get better and better.
It seems to be less about making money and more about, I just want to surround myself with all of these celebrity names so I can make myself feel important. What kind of employer talks about the political capital they would lose with their own employees? You're the one paying these people. You're not the one who has something to lose. But there is one story that seems to top all of the rest, and that is the complete disaster that was Citadel. Behind the scenes of this seems less like a TV production and more like an episode of Game of Thrones, because this show cost $250 million for one season of 6 episodes, goes up to $300 if you take into account the tax breaks that they had, which makes it $50 million an episode, but it was originally meant to only cost $20 million an episode. Now, Amazon have come out and said how it's an amazing success, because they do that all the time. Being a data company means we can find one thing that sounds good and just repeat that. A bit like this.
Lord of the Rings had over 100 million viewers.
And yet, despite it being completely mid, it's already got spin-offs, and just said that Citadel just needs time to grow its audience. It's a bit like putting a fruit bowl in a bar. I mean, if nobody eats the fruit initially, if you just give it time, eventually, over about 5 years, it'll vanish. I mean, it'll rot first and start to smell, but it will eventually vanish. The flies will make sure of that. But the cost balloons because the Russos disagreed with Applebaum about what they wanted to eliminate and other plot elements in the show, which had already been filmed. This led to the Russos going off into post-production and making their own cut of the show, setting up a second editing group in Los Angeles as opposed to the original one in London, and make an alternate version for the series, which they submitted to Amazon without even showing it to the original team, who then had to rush to get their own cut to Amazon themselves. Amazon then had to choose between them, chose the Russos, which required them to do substantial reshoots, and when they say substantial reshoots, they ended up reshooting more than half the show, and after all of that, they rewarded him with a second season and $25 million for his work. It's not about efficiency of saving when people fail upwards. If you have the wrong people in charge, you could do as much efficiency saving as possible, but because they will keep picking losers, backing losers, and giving them more and more money, this isn't a retail business. You can't keep cutting costs until you hit profitability. When it comes to entertainment, it's about the people making the decisions, because they have to be the right decisions based off the right principles, or you will inevitably fail at everything. And the person they have making the decisions is Jennifer Solke, somebody who, when confronted with the fact that Rings of Power was less than a success, replied, "It's not reflective of any conversation I'm having internally. Doesn't matter what the numbers are or what reality is, because she's just got a company full of yes men who can only possibly tell her that Rings of Power has been an incredible success," as she surrounds herself with the next celebrity she can give some money to. The funniest is the CEO listing off the successes they've had.
Look at Jack Ryan and Reacher and Terminal List and Citadel and
include shows from Solke's predecessor, Roy Price, who was ousted after some allegations, because Price had a couple of mass hits in the pipeline with Jack Ryan and The Boys. Meanwhile, after Solke was brought on board, she went on a spending spree for people like Jordan Peele, Donald Glover, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge. They all agreed to bring Amazon their best TV ideas in exchange for funding, which yielded no projects or duds. It's something so interesting to me that when a show fails, people will just blame the creator. And I've reached a point where I can't really do that, because if they were just honest with the TV show and they told them exactly what they were going to give them, and that's what they provided, did? Is it really their fault at that point? Or is it the person who's hiring them, whose job it is to spot a dud at the start? Someone comes to you with a bad idea and then they present to you that bad idea where you just got what you asked for. The person who should really be carrying the can is the one who gave them the money in the first place. The one who listened to the pitch and liked it. But this is a rather uncomfortable truth, and it's one that Amazon Prime Video and Jennifer Sulky certainly wouldn't want to confront. In fact, avoiding confronting reality is almost a full-time job at this point. You see, this article is one of the best summaries of the disaster at Amazon Prime Video, done by Kim Masters for The Hollywood Reporter. And it's mentioned over at Bloomberg because it outed the figure of how many people who started Rings of Power finished the series. And rather than thinking about it, rather than improving the series, rather than looking at the data and using it to improve their own services, what did they do? Well, it prompted Amazon to limit what viewership data its own employees can see.
The content continues to get better and better.
See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, eh? If nobody knows what the viewership data is, then it can't be bad. You can't hold me accountable for my own actions if you don't know what those actions are. But of course, even if the CEO knew all of this stuff, I can understand why he'd be hesitant to do anything about it. Because Sulky's supporters dismiss criticism of her reign as just a mix of sexism and elitism. Don't you understand? She's got some big hits like Terminal List and Jack Ryan, which, as this same article already said, Jack Ryan wasn't even hers. But you know what was? Citadel. But in the end, Amazon supported Russo's vision, which is why many in Hollywood have Sulky's back. And they like to muddy the water of what exactly a success is. Because they don't just go off views. No, we're trying to get people into the Prime Video subscription, which the CEO is strangely adamant about as well.
More and more customers are joining Prime because of the Prime Video benefit.
Because of the benefit, not because of the shipping.
Because of the benefit.
I don't believe that Prime Video drives many Prime subscriptions. I think people have Prime subscriptions, and Prime Video is taking credit for them being there, despite the fact they're there for the retail store. But in a corporate environment where your success is simply what can you pitch to people in a meeting, I can understand why, if you can take credit for some numbers, whether it's true or not, you may end up in a position where Sulky is telling her staff that her bosses have raved about her performance at the studio's team, despite the fact that people want to know where all the money is going. Raving about Sulky's performance in Amazon Prime Video is like bragging about the size of the iceberg that took down the Titanic. The CEO himself has said that this next year or two in the economy is going to test a lot of the resolve of companies. Meanwhile, they've got the staff at Prime Video just drilling holes in the ship. Because you have to remember, this is a company who had focus groups and audience data about what they wanted in their programming. Amazon knew what the customers wanted, and according to the CEO, that's what they pay attention to. On the retail side, that's what they were always known for.
What matters most is what customers care about, and then building all your strategies and tactics backwards from there.
When Amazon was first setting up, Jeff Bezos said that he would just solve customer problems every day. So if he just knocked out the 10 biggest complaints every day, by the time you're a year down the road, you've improved massively. And yet for Prime Video, they dropped the system of ranking shows based on audience scores because someone complained that that system led to too many people that he didn't like, that it just led to perpetuating a load of white guys with guns. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, that relying on data is soul-crushing.
What matters most is what customers care about.
Really sounds like somebody who can't handle the fact that they make shows that nobody wants to see. And the reason why you find the audience opinion so soul-crushing is because you don't make anything good. The truth of the fact is, you shouldn't really be making anything if you don't make what the audience wants. If something isn't profitable, it shouldn't exist. It's not his opinion, though. I know this isn't testing that great, but I believe in this. Why would anyone believe in it? It's trash. If the audience don't like your show, it's trash. There is no other opinion. The only opinion that counts are from the people that are giving you the money. That's not Sulky's opinion, no. She shot from the hip. She went with her gut. She didn't let data overrule her. Why let reality and facts stand in the way of woman's intuition? Does that really sound like something that matches a CEO asking you about your content spending? Oh, well, I knew that this was testing well. We had all the data that the audience hated it, and we know exactly what the audience wants. But we don't want to give them that. No, I'd rather spend $20 million a year on Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who hasn't produced anything.
The content continues to get better and better.
Why? Well, it's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Now, I should say this isn't exactly surprising when you find out exactly why Sulky was hired in the first place. You know, when you read about how from the get-go, Amazon was focused on primarily female candidates. and that as a company they have quirky obstacles in recruitment, that top executives don't want to work for them because they're too thrifty, and that's not what top Hollywood executives are accustomed to. Amazon execs fly coach and stay at reasonably priced hotels. The company employees don't even get free Amazon Prime membership. We decided not to hire on the basis of merit, and nobody wants to work for us because we're so cheap. Yeah, really got the best person you could have done there, Amazon, didn't you? Now, while doing this article, I did find this from Business Insider, which says that Amazon is taping up windows and hiring security to keep its Lord of the Rings series a secret. Sulky said that the show's writers are being kept in a secure room with no natural light in order to prevent leaks. Which, admittedly, after seeing season 1 is justice. What are you going to do for season 2? Keep him in solitary confinement. By the time they get to season 3, they're just going to be writing in the 7th circle of hell. And so I don't think that Amazon Prime Video can be saved because of who they've got in charge that they seem unwilling to get rid of. You can get rid of the people making your shows as much as you want, but as long as their heads are in charge, they're the ones causing the problems. With Citadel, insiders say unclear on creative direction. Something that's been mimicked in other articles. There's no vision for what an Amazon Prime show is. You can't say they stand for this kind of storytelling because it's completely random what they make and how they make it. Because it just seems to be at Sulky's whim about, does she like this? Did you give her the correct pitch? Have you appealed to her politics enough? Because that certainly seems to be what happened with The Wheel of Time, something that's now got a season 3 despite the fact that the first one was awful. Second one was renewed before the first released, and the third is before the second's released. They don't care what the audience reaction to it is, because that was never the point. No, when Sulky was hired, she apparently wanted to abandon a Conan the Barbarian TV series because it was just too toxically masculine. I don't know, it sounds like it actually might have made money for you for once. But Wheel of Time was that replacement. Now, Wheel of Time itself, if you want a show that balances the sort of different but equal mentality, that would be the show. Now, admittedly, in the Wheel of Time, the women do destroy the Earth and introduce intergenerational destruction on men. But if anything, that just adds to the realism. But the Wheel of Time TV series destroyed that in the first 36 seconds. It immediately just eradicated the books because the showrunner wanted to interject his own political opinions, saying that one of the things about the books is they were probably quite femme in the 90s when they came out. So I want to stay true to that and make them feel femme today. But if we just took what happened in the books and put them on the screen today, they wouldn't feel as femme. There's a 30-year gap between when the books came out and the series end. So we're just trying to deliver on the promise of the series from the 90s that it would be like that. There was no interest in taking what it was and accurately transporting that onto the screen. No, we want to take that idea of maybe it was pushing some boundaries and move it into the modern time and push boundaries that exist now. This led to the transformation beyond what it was and the complete destruction of the entire work. But this would have been exactly what Sulky wanted. If Conan was just too masculine for her, the Wheel of Time TV show is anything but. And while I could blame Rafe Judkins for this, I don't know why I would. He went to Amazon, he pitched the show like this, he told them what he wanted to do, and they agreed. They paid him for it, and he delivered on his promise. Is that really his fault? Or is it the fault of the person on the other side of the desk? Sulky giving him the money. She chose the direction of Amazon Prime Video, and everyone else just pitched the shows for her. Even if you fired Rafe or cancelled The Wheel of Time, it wouldn't help anything, because you would just greenlight a different show, which made all the same problems. You can't solve the problems of Amazon Prime Video by just cutting budget, as long as the person greenlighting the shows has values and principles which are antithetical to making money, because they are directly opposed to what the audience wants to see.
The content continues to get better and better.
And they know that because they had the data from focus groups. They knew what would be successful, but decided to drop that data entirely, ignore the audience, because it didn't align with their own personal opinions of the message that they want to push into the world. This isn't business, this is personal activism, and it's not something that a company like Amazon should support, especially when you've spoken all about how you want to put the customers first. How what really matters is what the customer wants, especially in an economic time where money is scarce, and the only way you can get somebody's money is if you give them exactly what they want. No, instead, Amazon embraced a tactic which could only inevitably lose money, like buying air from another company. How is that ever going to be a success? I mean, firstly, if they were so confident in the movie after they'd already made it, they'd just put it into cinema themselves. What you've got here is the preemptive preemptive purchase of something, taking all the risk off their shoulders. You have paid someone $160 million where they have no incentive to make it any good. They already have your money. It's not contingent on anybody actually watching it. And so why would they do anything except make it for as cheap as possible? You know all those shows where they cost hundreds of millions of dollars and you're like, where has this money gone? Well, Air cost $160 million. But a lot of it just seemed to go to making Matt more money because they didn't spend it on the show. In fact, the less they spent, the more money they made. It's not just a bad business strategy, it's an incompetent business strategy. If you give them the money in advance, it gives them incentives to make something worse or cheaper. They should be invested in the movie's success, which has to mean they have some kind of risk, or at least attachment to the upside. You'd assume that alone, losing $115 million would be enough to get you fired, but no. Instead, we're just going to start looking at your receipts and ask you, can you please spend a little bit less money? Thank you. There's no benefit in getting involved in the risk. Everyone's just sort of marking their time to get as much stock out as they can. That's no way to run a company. This is a hit-driven, risk-taking business, and they've made everyone in their company not want to take any risks. A lot of the problems seem to come from the fact that Amazon makes their money from AWS just selling server space and being a physical goods company, and that just doesn't match with being an entertainment company. The problem with Citadel is that it was at best a mid-show. Wheel of Time is completely awful, and Rings of Power was an abomination. There isn't enough of a core audience for these shows to just lower budgets a bit and make them profitable. What you need is somebody that could have seen they were a disaster before they were even made. That person is supposed to be sulky, and yet what she wants will inevitably lead to you losing money. Somebody who doesn't want a Conan series because it appeals to men isn't somebody who can run a profitable entertainment company. Someone who would look at the Wheel of Time and go, what we need to do there is completely ignore the source material, bring it into the present day and insert 2023 extreme activist mentality into it. If we could fill it full of complete nutters, that'd be an advantage, thank you very much. So we're ending up in a position where the CEO is going, hang on, there seems to be something weird going on over there, but doesn't seem equipped to understand the business that he's wading into, because he's the CEO of a massive company that spreads across many different verticals, and they're not the same. You can't treat entertainment like it's a retail business. And the moment Jennifer Sulky started to talk about Jennifer Sulky, the moment you found out her values, there are some key phrases that just mean, I'm going to cost you hundreds of millions of dollars. And at Amazon Prime Video, they hit those red flags on a daily basis. So I don't think the CEO's just got his work cut out for him. I think this is a lost cause. So that's just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.